Elena Martinez gripped the steering wheel of her Honda Civic and stared at her phone's GPS. The blue dot, showing her location, blinked mockingly in the middle of a neighborhood she definitely shouldn't be in at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday night. "Recalculating route," the GPS announced for the third time. Elena wanted to scream. She was lost in the industrial district of Brooklyn, the part tourists never saw, where warehouses cast long shadows and streetlights flickered like dying fireflies. Her phone showed she was supposed to deliver a catering order to Romano's social club somewhere on the street, but all she could see were abandoned buildings and dark alleyways. She was 26 years old, a culinary school graduate working as a delivery driver for her aunt's small catering company. This wasn't the career she'd imagined when she'd dreamed of becoming a chef, but dreams didn't pay the bills, and Elena had a lot of bills. Her phone rang. Her Aunt Rosa. "Elena, where are you?" The client called. "They ordered for 9 p.m. It's already 9:15. "I'm trying to find the address, Tia. The GPS keeps losing signal." "That's the Romano order. You can't be late for that one." "Why? Who are they?" There was a pause. "Just be professional, very professional, and get there as fast as you can." Rosa hung up before Elena could ask more questions. Elena looked at the order in her passenger seat. It was huge, $850 worth of food, enough Italian catering for 20 people. Her aunt had been excited about this order all week, saying it could lead to more business if they did it right. Elena took a deep breath and drove slowly down the dark street, squinting at building numbers that were barely visible. Finally, she saw it. A 3-story brick building with Romano's Social Club written in faded gold letters above a reinforced door. The building looked like it belonged in a movie about organized crime. Dark windows, no signs of life, except for several expensive cars. Parked outside, a black Mercedes, a silver BMW, a Cadillac Escalade. Elena's stomach twisted with nervousness. She'd heard stories about social clubs like this, places where certain kinds of businessmen conducted certain kinds of business that had nothing to do with legitimate enterprise. But she had a job to do. She parked her Civic behind the Mercedes, grabbed the first box of food, and walked to the door. There was no doorbell, just a heavy door with a small window covered by a curtain. Elena knocked. Nothing happened. She knocked again, louder. The curtain moved slightly. Someone was looking at her. Then she heard locks turning. Multiple locks, the kind that said, "We take security very seriously here." The door opened. A large man in a dark suit stood there, looking at her with suspicious eyes. He was maybe 50, built like a former boxer, with a face that suggested he didn't smile often. "Yeah," he said. "I'm from Rosa's Catering. I have your order." The man looked her up and down, then at her beat-up car behind her. "You're late." "I'm sorry." The GPS had trouble finding the address. "Wait here." He closed the door. Elena stood on the sidewalk, holding a heavy box of food. Feeling completely out of place, the door opened again. A different man appeared, younger, maybe late 30s, in an expensive dark suit that fit him perfectly. He had dark hair, sharp features, and eyes that seemed to notice everything. "You're the caterer?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Elena Martinez from Rosa's Catering." He studied her for a moment. "You're Rosa's niece. She mentioned you went to culinary school." "Yes, sir." "Come in. Bring everything inside." Elena made 6 trips to her car, carrying boxes of food, while the younger man, who seemed to be in charge, watched her work. The inside of the social club was nothing like the outside. It was surprisingly elegant, dark wood paneling, leather furniture, soft lighting. It looked like an expensive private restaurant. About 15 men in suits sat at tables throughout the space. They stopped talking when Elena entered, all of them watching her with the kind of attention that made her nervous. The younger man directed her to a long table against one wall. "Set up here." Elena unpacked everything: trays of lasagna, chicken marsala, pasta with vodka sauce, Caesar salad, fresh bread, tiramisu. Her aunt had made enough food for an army. As she arranged everything, she could feel eyes on her. These men weren't making small talk or laughing. They were having serious conversations in low voices, business discussions that weren't meant for outsiders to hear. Elena worked quickly, trying to be invisible. She was almost finished when she heard raised voices from across the room. "I don't care what you think you're owed," one man said angrily. "We had an agreement." "Agreements change when circumstances change," another man replied coldly. Elena kept her head down, focusing on arranging the dessert plates. This was exactly the kind of situation her aunt had warned her about years ago when Elena first started making deliveries. If you ever hear something you shouldn't, forget it immediately. What these men discuss is none of your business. Is there a problem? The younger man's voice cut through the tension. He'd appeared beside the arguing men, his tone calm but carrying weight. "Just a business disagreement, Mr. Castellano," one of them said quickly. So that was his name. Castellano. Elena filed it away and tried to finish faster. She was packing up the empty boxes when she heard footsteps behind her. "The food looks good," Mr. Castellano said. Elena turned. Up close, she could see he was probably 40, with dark eyes that were intelligent and assessing. He wasn't as big as some of the other men, but something about him commanded respect. People moved differently when he was nearby. "Thank you, sir. My aunt takes pride in her cooking." "But you cooked this?" It wasn't a question. Elena blinked. "How did you know?" "Rosa told me when we placed the order. She said her niece trained at the Culinary Institute and does most of the actual cooking now." He picked up a piece of bread, tasted it. "This is good. Better than good. The bread is homemade?" "Yes, sir. I make it fresh every morning." "And the sauce on the pasta?" "My grandmother's recipe. I adjusted it slightly, added a touch of fennel that wasn't in the original." Mr. Castellano's eyebrow raised slightly. "You improved your grandmother's recipe?" Elena's face flushed. "I didn't mean to suggest—" "Relax. I'm Italian. I understand that food is about respect for tradition and the courage to make it your own. You found the balance." He paused. "We'll be ordering from Rosa's catering again, probably twice a month." Elena felt relief wash over her. "That's wonderful. Thank you. Make sure you're the one who cooks it and delivers it. I like consistency." As Elena loaded her empty boxes back into her car, she felt the tension leaving her shoulders. The delivery had been strange and a little scary, but it was done, and she'd secured regular business for her aunt's struggling company. She was about to get in her car when she heard shouting. Elena turned. 3 men had appeared at the end of the street, young, aggressive-looking, moving toward the social club with purposeful strides. "Hey!" one of them yelled. "Tell Castellano we want to talk." The large man who'd first opened the door stepped outside. "This is private property. Leave." "We're not leaving until Castellano comes out here and explains why he thinks he can operate in our neighborhood without paying respect." Elena froze beside her car. This was bad. She could feel it. The younger men were pulling something from their jackets. Elena couldn't see what, but the body language was unmistakable. They were armed and looking for confrontation. The door to the social club opened. "Mr. Castellano stepped out, flanked by 2 other men. He looked calm, almost bored. "Gentlemen," he said, his voice carrying across the street, "you're making a mistake. The only mistake was you thinking you could move your operation into Brooklyn without permission. I've been operating in Brooklyn for 15 years, long before you were old enough to shave." One of the young men pulled out a gun. Elena's heart stopped. She should get in her car and drive away. Right now, immediately. But her feet wouldn't move. She stood frozen beside her Civic, boxes still in her hands, watching a situation that was about to turn violent. "Put that away," Mr. Castellano said, his voice hardening, "before you do something that can't be undone." "You don't tell us what to do anymore, old man. Times are changing." That's when Elena did something incredibly stupid. She screamed. Not because she meant to, she didn't, but one of her boxes slipped from her hands, crashed to the ground, and the sound that came out of her mouth was pure panic. Everyone turned to look at her. The young men with guns, the men from the social club, Mr. Castellano, all staring at Elena, who stood beside her car looking terrified with broken containers of tiramisu at her feet. "I'm sorry," Elena squeaked. I dropped the box and—" Mr. Castellano's expression changed. He looked at Elena, then at the young men, then back at Elena. When he spoke, his voice was different, harder, colder. "There's a civilian witness now, a young woman who was just making a delivery and has nothing to do with our business. Are you really going to escalate this situation with her standing right there?" The young men looked uncertain. One of them lowered his gun slightly. "Because if anything happens to her," Mr. Castellano continued, "if she gets hurt because of your stupidity, there's no corner of this city where you'll be safe. You understand that?" The threat in his voice was unmistakable. Elena had never heard someone speak with such quiet menace. The young men exchanged glances. The leader tried to maintain his tough posture. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is. For tonight, at least. Go home. Think about whether you really want to start a war over territory that isn't yours to claim. Think about whether your boss would approve of you pulling guns in front of witnesses, and then decide if you want to wake up tomorrow morning." The young men backed away slowly, trying to look tough but clearly rattled. They disappeared into the shadows between warehouses. Elena finally remembered how to move. She bent down to pick up her broken containers with shaking hands. Mr. Castellano walked over to her. Are you hurt? No, I'm fine. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. You may have just prevented violence. There's nothing to apologize for. He looked at the mess at her feet. Leave it. I'll have someone clean it up. But the containers. Leave it, he repeated more firmly. And go straight home. Don't stop anywhere. Lock your doors when you get there. Elena nodded, unable to form words. She got in her car with trembling hands and drove away, watching the social club disappear in her rearview mirror. What would you have done? Would you have driven away immediately, or would you have frozen like Elena did? Elena didn't sleep well that night. She kept replaying the scene, the guns, the threats, Mr. Castellano's cold voice promising violence to anyone who hurt her. By morning, she'd almost convinced herself it had been a fever dream. Then her Aunt Rosa called. Elena, what happened last night? What do you mean? Mr. Castellano called me this morning. He wants to place a standing order. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, food for 20 people. He's offering to pay $2,000 per delivery. Elena sat up in bed. $2,000? Tia, that's insane. Our normal catering orders are $300 to $500. I know. I told him the price seemed high. He said it includes hazard pay for delivering to his neighborhood and a bonus for quality and discretion. Discretion? He said you handled yourself professionally during an unexpected situation last night. He respects that. Elena remembered the guns, the confrontation, her panicked scream. I dropped a box of tiramisu on the ground. That's not professional. Whatever you did, you impressed him. And Elena, this contract would save the business. We've been struggling for months. This steady income would mean I could keep the kitchen, pay our suppliers on time, maybe even hire another cook so you're not working 16-hour days. Elena thought about it. $4,000 per week. That was $16,000 per month. That was life-changing money for a small catering business that was barely staying afloat. Okay, Elena said. I'll do it. Good. Your first delivery is this Thursday. And Elena? Mr. Castellano specifically requested that you cook the food and make the delivery. He doesn't want anyone else. After Rosa hung up, Elena sat in bed, trying to understand what had just happened. A powerful man, possibly a dangerous man, had just offered her aunt's struggling business a financial lifeline. Why? Thursday evening, Elena loaded her car with food for Romano's social club. She'd spent all day cooking, proper Italian dishes, the kind her grandmother would have approved of. Braised short ribs, fresh pasta with Sunday gravy, roasted vegetables with herbs, cannoli filled fresh that afternoon. She drove to the same dark street, parked behind the same expensive cars, and knocked on the same heavy door. The large man from before opened it, but this time he nodded at her almost respectfully. Come in, Miss Martinez. Mr. Castellano is expecting you. Inside, the social club was quieter than before. Only about 10 men were present, having what looked like a business meeting at the main table. They paused when Elena entered. Mr. Castellano stood. Elena, thank you for coming. Of course, sir. Set up like last time, and when you're finished, please stay. I'd like to speak with you. Elena's heart jumped nervously, but she nodded. She arranged the food on the long table, trying not to listen to the business discussion happening nearby. Something about shipments and schedules and territory agreements. The kind of vague language that could mean legitimate business or something else entirely. When she was done, Mr. Castellano gestured to a chair near his office door. Please sit. This won't take long. Elena sat, her hands folded in her lap, while Mr. Castellano finished his meeting. The other men gradually left until it was just Elena, Mr. Castellano, and the large man who seemed to be his constant companion. Thank you for waiting, Mr. Castellano said, sitting across from her. I wanted to discuss our arrangement. The standing order? Yes, but more than that. I want to be clear about expectations. He leaned forward. You're going to be delivering to this location twice a week. You're going to see and hear things, business discussions, people coming and going, situations that might seem unusual to you. Elena nodded slowly. What I need from you is discretion, complete discretion. You deliver food, you leave. You don't remember faces, you don't repeat conversations, you don't tell friends about the interesting place you deliver to. Can you do that? Yes, sir. Good. In exchange, you'll be paid generously. You'll also be protected. Protected from what? From anyone who might take an interest in you because of your association with me. Last Tuesday, 3 young idiots saw you here. They know you make deliveries to this location. That puts you on their radar, which means you're on mine. Elena's stomach tightened. I don't want any trouble. Neither do I, which is why Tony, he gestured to the large man, will be keeping an eye on things. If you ever feel unsafe, if anyone approaches you asking questions, you call this number. He handed her a card with a phone number written in neat handwriting. Day or night, someone will answer. Elena took the card with shaking hands. Mr. Castellano, what exactly is your business? He smiled slightly. I own several legitimate enterprises, a waste management company, commercial real estate, import/export operations, all legally registered, all paying taxes, all above board. But I also come from a family with a complicated history. My grandfather and father were involved in activities I've chosen to distance myself from. However, the reputation remains. People assume I'm connected to organized crime because of my last name and because I operate in certain neighborhoods. Are you? Elena asked, then immediately wished she could take the question back. But Mr. Castellano didn't seem offended. I operate by a code, Elena. Loyalty, respect, protecting those who work for me. Some people find that old-fashioned. Some find it threatening. I do business differently than most people. I value honor over profit, relationships over contracts. Does that make me dangerous? Perhaps. Does it make me a criminal? That depends on who you ask. Elena didn't know what to say. The truth is, Mr. Castellano continued, you're safer working for me than you would be working for most legitimate businesses. I take care of my people. I protect them. I don't exploit them. Can you say that about every employer you've had? Elena thought about the restaurant where she'd worked after culinary school, long hours, terrible pay, a chef who screamed at everyone and took credit for her ideas. She'd lasted 6 months before burning out. No, she admitted. I can't. Then let's make this simple. You cook excellent food and deliver it professionally. I pay you well and make sure no one bothers you. We have a business relationship built on mutual respect. Agreed? Agreed, Elena said. And that's how it started. Over the next 3 months, Elena delivered to Romano's social club twice a week. She learned the rhythm of the place. Tuesday evenings were business meetings. Thursday evenings were more casual gatherings. She learned to recognize the regular faces. Tony, the large man who always answered the door and who Elena discovered had a sweet tooth for her cannoli. Vincent, a quiet man in his 60s who complimented her cooking in Italian. Marco, younger and hot-headed, who Mr. Castellano often had to calm down during heated discussions. She learned to cook what they liked. They were Italian men mostly, with strong opinions about food. They wanted traditional dishes made properly. No fusion cuisine, no trendy reinterpretations. Just good food cooked with respect for the recipes their grandmothers had used. Elena discovered she loved this challenge. In culinary school, they'd taught her to be innovative, to push boundaries. But there was something deeply satisfying about mastering traditional techniques, about making pasta that would make an Italian grandmother weep with approval. The money transformed her aunt's business. Rosa was able to pay off debts, upgrade equipment, and even hire a part-time assistant. More importantly, other clients started calling. Apparently, word had spread about the quality of their catering. I don't know how they're finding us, Rosa said one morning. We're getting calls from restaurants, corporate offices, even a wedding planner. Everyone says they heard we do excellent Italian catering. Elena knew how. Mr. Castellano had connections throughout the city. He'd clearly been recommending Rosa's catering to his network. One Thursday evening, in late summer, Elena arrived at the social club to find it busier than usual. At least 25 men were present, and the atmosphere was tense. Mr. Castellano met her at the door personally. Elena, I need a favor? Of course. We have more people than expected tonight. Important guests from out of town. Can you stay and serve the food rather than just dropping it off? I'll pay triple the normal rate. Elena hesitated. Staying meant being present during whatever meeting was about to happen, hearing things, being part of things. I'll understand if you're not comfortable, Mr. Castellano said. But I trust you, and I need someone reliable tonight. The fact that he trusted her mattered more than Elena wanted to admit. Okay, I'll stay. For the next 2 hours, Elena served food to men who conducted business in low voices. She learned to move quietly, to refill drinks without interrupting conversations, to be present without being noticed. She heard things, names of politicians, discussions of union contracts, mentions of construction projects and waste management bids. Some of it sounded legitimate. Some of it sounded like the kind of business deals that existed in gray areas of the law. But she also heard Mr. Castellano shut down several proposals that crossed lines. We don't deal in drugs. Ever, he said firmly when someone suggested a new revenue stream. That's a rule my grandfather established, and I maintain it. We don't target civilians, he said when someone proposed intimidating a business owner who'd refused protection. If he doesn't want our services, we leave him alone. We don't work with anyone who disrespects women, he said when someone mentioned a potential partner who'd been accused of domestic violence. I don't care how profitable the arrangement would be. We have standards. Elena found herself reassessing her assumptions. Yes, these were men operating outside normal legal structures, but they also had codes, rules, lines they wouldn't cross. It was complicated in ways Elena hadn't expected. At the end of the evening, after the guests had left and Elena had cleaned up, Mr. Castellano handed her an envelope. Triple the normal rate, as promised, plus a bonus for excellent service. Elena opened the envelope. Inside was $9,000 in cash. This is too much, she said. It's exactly right. You did work tonight that required discretion and professionalism under pressure. You've earned every dollar. Mr. Castellano. Luca, he interrupted. Call me Luca. You've been working for me for 3 months. We can drop the formality. Elena felt her face flush. Luca, I need to ask you something. Go ahead. Why are you doing this? The generous pay, the protection, the referrals to other clients? Why me? Luca was quiet for a moment. Can I show you something? He led Elena to his office, a room she'd never entered before. Inside, the walls were covered with photographs. Luca with an elderly woman. Luca with a group of men outside a restaurant. Luca as a young man, standing beside someone who looked remarkably like him but older. That's my mother, Luca said, pointing to the photograph of the elderly woman. She came to America from Sicily with nothing. She worked in restaurant kitchens for 40 years, cooking food for other people, never having the chance to open her own place. He moved to another photograph. That's my father. He built a business from nothing, but he did it by making deals with people who operated outside the law. It gave us a good life, but it also meant living with constant danger, constant fear. He turned to face Elena. When I took over the family business, I made a decision. I would honor my father's legacy, but I would also create legitimate opportunities for people like my mother, people with talent who just needed someone to believe in them. I don't understand what that has to do with me. Elena, you went to one of the best culinary schools in the country. You're incredibly talented, but you're delivering food from your aunt's small catering company because the restaurant industry chewed you up and spit you out, because some chef took credit for your work or paid you poverty wages or made you work 100-hour weeks until you burned out. He was right. That's exactly what had happened. I see talent being wasted, Luca continued, and I see an opportunity to help someone build something real. Your aunt's business is growing because of your cooking, but it's still your aunt's business. What if it was yours? I don't have capital to start a restaurant. What if you did? Elena's heart started pounding. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting a business partnership. You open a restaurant. Authentic Italian cuisine, no compromises, your vision. I provide the capital and the business connections. You provide the talent and the work. We split the profits. Why would you do that? Because good food matters. Because helping talented people succeed is better than exploiting desperate ones. And because I think you could build something extraordinary if given the chance. Elena felt tears forming. That's my dream. I've wanted to open a restaurant since I was a child, cooking with my grandmother. Then let's make it happen. But I'd be in debt to you. It's not debt, it's partnership. And Elena, I want to be very clear about something. This is a legitimate business opportunity. Your restaurant will pay taxes, follow all laws, operate completely above board. I'm not asking you to launder money or be part of anything illegal. I'm offering you a chance to be a chef, nothing more. Elena looked at the photographs on the wall. Luca's mother in her restaurant uniform, his father standing proudly outside a business he'd built. I need to think about it, she said. Of course. Take all the time you need. Elena spent a week wrestling with the decision. She talked to her Aunt Rosa, who encouraged her to take the chance. Mija, opportunities like this don't come often, especially not for people like us. She talked to her best friend Carmen, who was more skeptical. Elena, this is a Mafia boss offering you money. That comes with strings. He said there are no strings. Everyone says that, until there are. Elena did research on Luca Castellano. She found news articles about his father, who'd been investigated multiple times for racketeering but never convicted. She found business registrations for Luca's legitimate companies, waste management, commercial real estate, import/export. Everything looked legal on paper. She also found articles about community programs Luca funded, a youth center in his neighborhood, scholarships for kids from immigrant families, support for small businesses struggling to survive. It painted a picture of a man trying to operate honorably in a world that didn't always reward honor. On her next delivery to Romano's social club, Elena found Luca alone in his office. "I've made a decision," she said. "And?" "I want to do it. I want to open a restaurant, but I have conditions." Luca gestured to a chair. "I'm listening." "First, everything has to be legal. Completely legal. No cutting corners, no questionable arrangements, no favors that put me in compromising positions." "Agreed." "Second, I need creative control over the menu, the design, the staff. If this is going to be my restaurant, it needs to reflect my vision." "Absolutely." "Third, I want a clear contract outlining our partnership. I need to know exactly what I'm agreeing to, what you expect from me, and how profits will be divided. I'll have my lawyer draft something this week." "And fourth," Elena took a breath, "I need to understand what association with you might mean for me. Will I be safe? Will my family be safe? Will there be consequences I can't anticipate?" Luca's expression became serious. "I can't promise that my reputation won't affect you. People will make assumptions about where your funding came from. Some people will refuse to eat at your restaurant because they know I'm your partner. You may face scrutiny from law enforcement wondering if the restaurant is a front for illegal activities." "And is it?" "No. But I can't stop people from thinking it might be." He leaned forward. "What I can promise is protection. If anyone threatens you or tries to use your connection to me to cause problems, you tell me immediately. You and your family will be safe. That's non-negotiable." Elena thought about her mother, her younger brother, her Aunt Rosa. They can't be involved. They can't be at risk because of my choices. "They won't be. You have my word." Elena looked at this man who'd come into her life by accident 3 months ago, a man who was dangerous and honorable in equal measure, a man who was offering her the opportunity of a lifetime, while being honest about the complications that came with it. "Okay," she said. "Let's do it." Luca smiled, a genuine smile that transformed his usually serious face. "Then let's start planning. Tell me about your restaurant. What do you want to create?" For the next 2 hours, Elena talked about the menu she'd been planning in her head for years, about the intimate space she imagined, maybe 50 seats, small enough to maintain quality, about combining her grandmother's traditional recipes with techniques she'd learned in culinary school. Luca listened to everything, asked smart questions, and made suggestions that showed he understood both food and business. "I know a property that might work," he said eventually. "Small commercial space in Carroll Gardens. The previous restaurant closed 6 months ago. It needs renovation, but the bones are good. And the neighborhood is Italian enough to appreciate traditional cuisine, but diverse enough to attract adventurous eaters." "How much would the property cost?" "Let me worry about that. You worry about creating a menu that will make my mother's ghost smile." Over the next 6 months, Elena's dream took shape. Luca secured the property and hired contractors for renovations. Elena designed the kitchen, chose equipment, and developed a menu that honored tradition while showcasing her skills. She worked 16-hour days, still delivering to Romano's social club twice a week while spending every other moment on the restaurant. She tested recipes, she interviewed potential staff, she argued with contractors about kitchen layouts and met with health inspectors to ensure everything was perfect. Luca was involved in every major decision but never overrode her choices. When Elena wanted to spend extra money on a specific oven, he approved it. When she insisted on hiring an inexperienced sous chef because she saw potential, he trusted her judgment. "This is your restaurant," he reminded her. "I'm just making it possible." But Elena noticed other things too. The contractors worked faster and more carefully than usual, as if motivated by more than just their contract. The inspectors approved everything on the first try without the usual bureaucratic delays. The suppliers gave her better prices than her competitors got. Luca's influence was everywhere, smoothing the path in ways that were helpful, but also reminded Elena that she was building something with a powerful man's backing. 3 weeks before the opening, Elena was at the restaurant late one night, testing recipes, when Luca stopped by. "You're still here?" he asked, looking at the kitchen covered in ingredients and dirty dishes. "I'm trying to perfect the ragu. It's still not quite right." Luca tasted it. "It's excellent. It's good. It's not excellent. My grandmother's was excellent. Mine is still missing something." "What did your grandmother do differently?" "I don't know. That's the problem. I watched her make it 100 times. But there was something she did, some instinct or technique that I can't quite replicate." Luca was quiet for a moment. My mother used to say that the best cooks don't just follow recipes. They cook with love, with intention. Every stir of the pot is a prayer that the people eating it will be nourished, not just in body, but in spirit. Elena looked at him with new understanding. Your mother was a chef. She never had the formal title, but she understood food in ways that can't be taught in school. He gestured to the pot of ragu. You're cooking this sauce like a professional chef. Technique perfect, measurements precise. But your grandmother was cooking it like a mother feeding her family. That's the difference you're feeling. Elena stared at the sauce. So how do I cook it with love instead of technique? Stop thinking about impressing food critics and think about feeding someone you care about. Who are you cooking for, Elena? Really? Elena thought about it. My grandmother, my mother, the customers who will come here hungry and tired, looking for comfort. Then cook for them, not for perfection. Elena started over. This time she didn't measure precisely. She tasted constantly, adjusting by instinct rather than recipe. She thought about her grandmother's kitchen, about Sunday dinners with family, about the way food could make people feel loved and welcomed. When she finished, Luca tasted it again, his eyes closed. There it is. That's the difference. Your grandmother would be proud. Elena felt tears in her eyes. Thank you for all of this, for believing in me. Thank you for letting me be part of it. Luca gestured around the restaurant. This is my mother's legacy as much as yours. Every time someone eats here and feels welcomed, she's here too. What would you have done? Would you have accepted a business partnership with someone connected to organized crime, even if the opportunity was legitimate? 3 weeks later, Elena's opened for business. The restaurant was small and intimate, exposed brick walls, Edison bulb lighting, 50 seats arranged to feel cozy rather than cramped. The open kitchen let customers watch Elena and her staff work, creating theater out of cooking. The first night was terrifying. Elena had invited friends, family, and a few food critics. She'd also invited Luca and some men from Romano's social club, though she'd asked them to come in small groups so the restaurant wouldn't look like a mafia gathering. Her first customers were an elderly Italian couple who'd lived in Carroll Gardens for 60 years. Elena personally took their order, then cooked their meal with shaking hands. When she brought out their pasta, the woman tasted it, and her eyes filled with tears. This tastes like my mother's sauce, she said in Italian. How do you know this recipe? My grandmother taught me, Elena replied in Italian. She came from Calabria. So did my mother. This is her sauce. Exactly her sauce. The woman's husband tasted it and nodded. You're going to be very successful, young lady. This is real Italian food, not the American version. By the end of the night, every table was full. The reviews were excellent, and Elena had a waiting list for reservations. Luca came by after closing, when Elena was exhausted but exhilarated. I heard it went well, he said. It was perfect. Everything worked. The kitchen ran smoothly, the food was excellent, and people actually enjoyed it. Of course they enjoyed it. You're an exceptional chef. Elena impulsively hugged him. Thank you for everything, for believing in me when no one else did. Luca stiffened slightly. He clearly wasn't used to physical affection, but then relaxed and returned the hug briefly. You did this. I just provided resources. The talent, the work, the vision, that's all you. Over the next 6 months, Elena's became one of Brooklyn's most popular restaurants. Food critics praised it. Customers raved about it. Elena hired more staff and extended her hours because demand was so high. The money was good, really good. Elena paid off her student loans. She moved into a better apartment. She helped her mother with bills and sent her younger brother to college. But she also discovered that Luca had been right about complications. A food critic mentioned in a review that the restaurant was rumored to be financed by organized crime figures. The health inspector started showing up more frequently than normal, clearly looking for violations. And one night, 2 men in suits who identified themselves as FBI agents came to the restaurant asking questions about Luca Castellano and his business activities. We're investigating Mr. Castellano's financial operations, one agent said. We'd like to know how you met him and what the terms of your business arrangement are. Elena's lawyer, hired on Luca's recommendation, had prepared her for this possibility. Mr. Castellano is a legitimate business partner who provided capital for this restaurant, Elena said carefully. All of our financial arrangements are properly documented and legal. We pay taxes on all income, and I'm happy to provide any documentation you need. Did Mr. Castellano ask you to launder money through the restaurant? No. Has he asked you to provide services in exchange for his investment beyond running the restaurant? No. Our agreement is that I run the restaurant, he receives a share of profits as an investor, and we both benefit from a successful business. That's the extent of our arrangement. The agents asked more questions, but Elena's answers remained consistent. Everything was legal. Everything was documented. There was nothing to hide because there was nothing illegal happening. After they left, Elena called Luca. The FBI was just here asking questions about you. I know. They've been investigating me for 2 years. They won't find anything because there's nothing to find in relation to your restaurant. I promised you this would be legitimate, and it is. But they're watching. They're always watching. It comes with my family name. But Elena, your business is clean. I made sure of that. They can investigate all they want. They'll find a successful restaurant with proper documentation, legal income, and taxes paid on time. There's nothing there. Will this hurt the restaurant? It might. Some people will stay away because they don't want to be associated with me, even indirectly. But others will come because they're curious or because they don't care about my reputation if the food is good. You'll survive this. Elena wanted to believe him. And over the next few months, she learned he was right. Yes, some customers stopped coming. Yes, the FBI continued to occasionally show up with questions. But the restaurant remained successful because the food was exceptional and the experience was genuine. A year after opening, Elena's restaurant had a 3-week waiting list for reservations. She'd been featured in the New York Times. She'd won awards from food publications, and she'd paid back half of Luca's initial investment through her share of the profits. One evening, Luca came to the restaurant after closing. Elena was in the kitchen, doing inventory, when he knocked on the door. Do you have a moment, Enilas? He asked. Of course, come in. They sat at the bar where Elena poured them both wine. I wanted to talk to you about our partnership, Luca said. Elena's stomach tightened. Is something wrong? The opposite. The restaurant is incredibly successful. You've paid back a significant portion of my investment already. I want to offer you an opportunity to buy out my share completely if you want. Elena blinked. What? You could own this restaurant outright. No partner, no connection to me, no complications. I'll sell you my share for exactly what I invested initially. I won't take profit beyond what you've already paid me. You could be completely independent. Why would you do that? Because you've proven you don't need me anymore. You're an exceptional chef and a good businesswoman. You could run this place successfully without my backing. Elena looked around her restaurant, the space she'd dreamed about. For years, that Luca had made possible. What if I don't want to buy you out? Luca seemed surprised. Why wouldn't you? Having me as a partner complicates things for you. The FBI attention, the rumors, the assumptions people make. You'd be better off without that. Maybe. But you gave me this opportunity when no one else would. You've been a good partner. You trusted my decisions, you protected me, you helped me build something real. I'm not going to abandon that partnership just because it's complicated. Elena, you don't owe me loyalty. This isn't about owing you. It's about choosing to work with someone I respect, even when it's not the easy choice. Luca was quiet for a long moment. You're more like me than you realize. Most people choose the path of least resistance. You choose the path that aligns with your values, even when it costs you. I learned that from watching you, Elena said. You could operate your business in ways that would be more profitable, but less honorable. You don't. You have codes you won't violate, even when violating them would be easier. I respect that. Then we remain partners. We remain partners. They clinked glasses, sealing the agreement. 2 years after Elena got lost in a dangerous neighborhood, she owned one of Brooklyn's most respected Italian restaurants. She employed 15 people. She'd been invited to cook at the James Beard House, and she just signed a lease on a second location in Manhattan. Luca was still her partner and had become a true friend. He came to the restaurant once a week, always sitting at the bar, always ordering the same thing, the Sunday gravy that tasted like his mother's cooking. But the FBI had eventually given up their investigation, finding nothing illegal. The rumors about Mafia connections had faded as Elena's reputation as a serious chef grew. And customers came not because of who financed the restaurant, but because the food was extraordinary. One evening, a young woman came to the restaurant with a business proposal. She was nervous, clearly struggling financially, carrying a portfolio of recipes she'd developed. I heard you sometimes mentor young chefs, she said. I'm a culinary school graduate, but I can't find work anywhere. I was hoping you might look at my recipes and tell me if I have any talent. Elena looked at this young woman who reminded her so much of herself 3 years ago, talented, desperate, and looking for someone to believe in her. Tell me about your food, Elena said. What do you want to cook? The woman's face lit up. Traditional Mexican cuisine, my grandmother's recipes from Oaxaca. But restaurants only want me to cook Americanized versions. Tex-Mex, fusion, trendy interpretations. I want to honor the tradition, not reinvent it. Elena felt tears in her eyes, remembering a similar conversation she'd had with Luca years ago, about respecting tradition, about cooking with love instead of just technique. Can you cook for me? Elena asked. Bring your ingredients tomorrow evening after we close. Show me what you can do. Really? You'd give me a chance? Someone gave me a chance when I needed it most. I owe it to them to do the same for you. The next evening, Elena watched the young woman, her name was Maria, cook with passion and skill. The food was exceptional, traditional, perfectly executed, full of love. After Maria left, Elena called Luca. I think I just found someone to open a second restaurant, she said. But she has no capital, no connections, and she's from a community that doesn't usually get opportunities in the restaurant industry. Sounds familiar, Luca said with amusement. What are you proposing? Same arrangement you gave me. I provide capital and connections. She provides talent and work. We help her build something real. You want to use your profits from Elena's to fund someone else's dream? I want to pay forward what you did for me. Isn't that what you said? That helping talented people succeed is better than exploiting desperate ones? Luca laughed. You've learned well. Okay, let's do it. Set up a meeting with your protégé. Let's see if we can help her the way I helped you. As Elena hung up the phone, she looked around her restaurant. 3 years ago, she'd been a delivery driver with culinary school debt and no prospects. She'd gotten lost in a dangerous neighborhood, made a delivery to a social club, and accidentally stumbled into a confrontation that could have ended badly. Instead, it had changed her life, not because of luck or charity, but because someone had recognized her talent and given her an opportunity, and now she could do the same for someone else. The cycle continued. The kindness spread, all because Elena had gotten lost one evening and knocked on the right door. Or maybe it had been exactly the right door all along. 5 years after that first delivery to Romano's social club, Elena owned 3 successful restaurants in New York. Elena's in Brooklyn remained her flagship. Maria's, in the East Village, showcased traditional Oaxacan cuisine, and Nonna's, in Manhattan's Little Italy, honored the recipes of Luca's mother, with Elena serving as culinary director. Each restaurant was run by talented chefs Elena had mentored. People who'd been overlooked by the mainstream restaurant industry, but who had exceptional skills and deep respect for culinary traditions. Luca was a silent partner in all of them, providing capital and connections, but never interfering with creative decisions. His reputation still caused some complications. Journalists occasionally wrote articles speculating about mafia money in the restaurant industry, but the food was too good for the controversy to matter much. Elena had also started a nonprofit culinary training program for young people from immigrant families. She taught cooking classes, provided scholarships, and helped her students navigate the brutal restaurant industry. One morning, Elena was teaching a class when her assistant interrupted. There's someone here to see you. Says it's important. In her office stood a young man, maybe 19, nervous and uncomfortable, in clothes that didn't quite fit properly. Can I help you? Elena asked. My name is Dante Castellano, the young man said. Luca Castellano is my uncle. Elena's eyebrows raised. Luca had never mentioned family beyond his deceased parents. I'm in trouble, Dante continued, his words coming fast. I got involved with some people, bad people, and I did things I'm not proud of. My uncle helped me get out of that situation, but now I need to build a legitimate life. He said you might give me a chance. What kind of chance? A job. Any job. I'll wash dishes, clean floors, whatever you need. I just need honest work and someone who won't judge me for my past. Elena studied this young man who looked so much like Luca must have. Looked at that age. Dark eyes, sharp features carrying the weight of family history. Why should I hire you? Elena asked. Because my uncle says you're someone who believes in second chances, that you understand family legacy doesn't have to define your future, and because I promise I'll work harder than anyone you've ever hired. I need to prove I'm more than my mistakes. Elena thought about herself 5 years ago, desperate for a chance, carrying her own burdens, meeting a man who looked past the surface and saw potential. You're right, Elena said. I do believe in second chances, but I also believe in accountability. If I hire you, I expect you to show up on time, work hard, and treat everyone with respect. You don't get special treatment because of your uncle. You earn your place here like everyone else. Can you handle that? Dante's relief was visible. Yes, ma'am, I can handle that. Then you start Monday, 6 a.m., dress appropriately for kitchen work. And Dante, thank you for being honest about your situation. That took courage. After Dante left, Elena called Luca. Your nephew just asked me for a job. I know. I told him you might give him a chance if he was honest about his past. You could have asked me first. I could have, but I wanted Dante to do it himself, to practice asking for help rather than expecting it as a family privilege. Did he do okay? He was nervous but honest. I hired him. Thank you, Elena. He's a good kid who made bad choices. He deserves an opportunity to make better ones. We all deserve that, Elena said, thinking about her own journey from delivery driver to restaurant owner. That's what you taught me. 6 months later, Dante had become one of Elena's best line cooks. He was punctual, hardworking, and passionate about learning. He reminded Elena of herself, someone with talent who just needed guidance and opportunity. One evening after service, Dante approached Elena nervously. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you give me a chance? You didn't know me. You could have turned me away. Elena thought about the question. 5 years ago, I was delivering food to your uncle's social club. I got lost, scared, and I stumbled into a situation I didn't understand. Your uncle could have seen me as a problem or a security risk. Instead, he saw an opportunity to help someone. She looked at Dante. He taught me that the most powerful thing you can do with success is help others achieve it too. So when you asked for a chance, I remembered that lesson, and I decided to pay it forward. Did you ever worry that working with my uncle would be dangerous? Every day at first, but I learned that honor matters more than reputation. Your uncle operates by a code: loyalty, respect, protecting the people who work for him. That's more valuable than a spotless background check. Dante nodded slowly. He says the same thing about you, that you have integrity most people in business don't have, that you could have walked away from your partnership when things got complicated, but you didn't. Loyalty goes both ways, Elena said simply. That night, as Elena locked up the restaurant, she thought about the strange path her life had taken. From culinary school graduate with crushing debt, to delivery driver getting lost in dangerous neighborhoods, to restaurant owner with 3 successful locations and a non-profit teaching program. None of it would have happened without that wrong turn 5 years ago, without getting lost and knocking on the door of Romano's social club, without meeting a man who saw potential instead of risk. Her phone buzzed. A text from Luca. Dante says you're a good teacher. Thank you for giving him a chance to be more than his mistakes. Elena smiled and typed back. Someone did the same for me once. I'm just paying it forward. That's how it works. You help someone, they help someone else, the cycle continues. My mother would be proud of what you've built. I couldn't have built it without you. You're wrong. You would have found a way. I just accelerated the timeline. Elena put her phone away and looked at her restaurant. Her dream, made real through hard work, talent, and the kindness of a stranger who'd become a friend. She thought about Maria, now running her own successful restaurant. About Dante, learning to be a chef and leaving his troubled past behind. About the dozens of students she'd taught through her nonprofit program. The cycle continued. The opportunities spread, all because Elena had gotten lost one evening and knocked on exactly the right door. Looking back, would you have trusted a powerful stranger from a dangerous world? Would you have had the courage to build something beautiful from an accidental encounter? Your participation means a lot to the channel. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below, letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.